inequality can breed other problems in the future. We did not send away whites. We took away land in accordance with what the British and ourselves had agreed upon, Margaret Thatcher's government, that there shall be a land reform program and land shall be taken from the farmers and be given to the Zimbabweans. So it was all constitutional. What we didn't want was that Blair should reverse that. That one. President Mugabe said, no, Mr. Blair, you can't do that. So, and we were supported. The South Africans said no. He wanted, when we started taking the land now, he refusing to pay compensation. We told the farmers they get their compensation from the British and the Americans. Americans had promised also to support the British at Lancaster House. So, if Blair said, I'm no longer willing to pay for the land, should we have just folded our hands and say, oh Lord Almighty, I pray in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit? Goodness me, no. Blair, and who was he? Just a Prime Minister of Britain. I'm President of Zimbabwe. So that's why we say, okay, it's your money, keep it. It's our land, we will take it. Balance.
Some of us were embarrassed, if not frightened, but what appeared to be the return of the biblical giant called Goliath. Are we having a return of Goliath to our midst, who threatens the extinction of other countries? Damnation we shall always resist, no matter whence it comes. We have resisted it when it was in the form of imperialism, as we fought for our own independence, our own culture, our own sovereignty to be masters of our own destiny. That's why we call ourselves free today. It is because the monster of imperialism was defeated by us.
So that was Robert Mugabe, former Zimbabwean president and independence icon. Well, he died aged 95, and until his death was receiving treatment in a hospital in Singapore since April. He was ousted in a military coup in 2017 after 37 years in power. The former president was praised for broadening access to health and education for the black majority, but later years were marked by violent repression of his political opponents and Zimbabwe's economic ruin. Tributes have been pouring in for him already, among which is that of current President Emmerson Mnangagwa, who describes him as an icon of liberation. According to the president, it is with the utmost sadness, quote, that I announce the passing on of Zimbabwe's founding father and former president, Comrade Robert Mugabe. He was an icon of liberation, a Pan-Africanist who dedicated his life to the emancipation and empowerment of his people. His contribution to the history of a nation and continent will never be forgotten, and he ends by saying, may his soul rest in perfect peace. Now we go straight to international relations expert Dr. Vladimir Intridanso to share some thoughts as Zimbabweans and many people across Africa mourn Robert Mugabe. Doc, you just returned from Zimbabwe, and how did you receive the news?
Well, I received the news not with any shock because I knew it was bound to happen. Incidentally, I was with a delegation and we even asked to see him, and we were told that he wasn't very well and that he was in Singapore, thereabout. So I knew at any point in time it was bad. So I wasn't surprised. It's sad that we are one of Africa's icons. But then I received it with a normal kind of relationship towards that.
Let me get very personal here. What would you remember him for?
I would remember him for his resilience, his stubbornness, his Pan-African. He's a guy in the wool kind of Pan-African. And I would remember him for these three things. He was stubborn in his belief. He was resilient in charting the cause for which he has created that kind of mission. And I think that kind of resilience and stubbornness, I'll always remember him for those.
You speak about Pan-Africanism, and that's one thing that a lot of young Africans who believe in Pan-African ideals will say they'll remember Mr. Robert Mugabe for. But what do you think his death will cost the continent?
Well, you know, he showed something which I think Africans did not accept easily. And Nkrumah said, we must demonstrate to the world that after all, the African is capable of managing his own affairs. And Mugabe epitomized that. He proved to the world that he didn't want any contamination of the past he and Zimbabwe were having for themselves. And that, in any case, it is Zimbabwe and not Britain. He was able to tell off Tony Blair and told Tony Blair, take your Europe, I take my Zimbabwe. These are the things that governance in Africa have not been able to imbibe, and it's sad. You know, can we brew our democracy in an African port? And that was what Mugabe was trying. And I think the generation and generations to come will have to know that no amount of importation of value will bring African development.
This morning, when you check social media, the top trends is R.I.P. Robert Mugabe, and people are sharing their thoughts on his death, his life, and his legacy. Beyond the positives we speak about, what do you think we can learn from what you may want to call the extreme or downsides of Robert Mugabe for African leaders?
Well, invariably, the downsides of Mugabe have been imported. In fact, they tell us he's a dictator, and we pick it. They tell us he's not a Democrat, we pick it. They tell us he's, excuse me, an idiot, he doesn't know where to go, and we pick it. Yes, my only beef with Mugabe is his inability to create or build a system that would outlive him. A good leader normally builds a system. The system is accepted by the people believe in it, and they continue when even the person is out. Let me give you an example of Fidel Castro. Built a resilient, stubborn system for Cubans, and Cubans are now pride of the world. Vladimir Ilyich Lenin built a socialist system which was not managed well, but at least for 70 years or more, that system recrafted the world. So you always have to build a system that lives beyond you. Because he was unable to build such a system, there were a lot of hiccups. That's the only thing I'll hold against.
Thank you very much for your time this morning. Dr. Vladimir Intridansu is an international relations expert sharing his thoughts on the life of the man who's being mourned and celebrated around the world today, former Zimbabwean President Robert Mugabe.